Hi, this is Rick, and I'd like to welcome you to part 2 of this tutorial lesson on Amazing Grace. In this part of the lesson, we're going to cover development of an introduction and ending to the song. If you haven't gone through part 1 of the tutorial, there's a link at the top of the page for you to click on that will take you to that video, and I would recommend that you go through that piece of it so that you understand where some of these concepts are coming from. I'm going to use a lot of the techniques and pieces of the song to build an intro that's related to the song and an ending that fits with the song. So let me play what I'm going to do for the intro. I'll just play the fully developed intro, and then I'll explain to you how I came up with it. So that's the intro to our song. Now, whenever you do an intro, you really have two good choices. You can either select an excerpt from the song to be part of your intro, and that's very good if it's a song that's not well known or that you really want to clue people in on the song. Taking something, particularly the last phrase of the song, is a very good way to get into a song. In the case of a song like this, it's well known. There's no real good reason to do that. It's just as effective, maybe more effective, for you to do a complementary introduction to the song, something that sets the style or tone of the song, but it doesn't really give you the melody of the song. Still, you want to make it very obvious where the melody is going to come in, so it's a complementary piece of the song. Anyway, so how did I come up with that introduction? Well, if you remember, we're in the key of F in this tutorial, so we're using, we're starting with a F major scale, and the notes that are in that scale are the notes that I'm going to select from to build my introduction. Now, what I did with this introduction, I started on the second note of the scale, and I walked up the scale and then back down, and then did a turnaround at the end of that based on the first note of the scale. Let me demonstrate what I'm talking about. So I'm starting on the second note of the F scale, and I walked up, 2 notes to pick up, and that's really the first beat of the measure of the introduction. So these 2 notes are pickup notes, and I just walked up the scale, and I'm going to walk back down the scale and do a turnaround, taking the notes on either side of this F where I'm ending, and back to the F. So again, I'm up, down, and a turnaround. Very simple melody, easy to remember, just notes at the scale up, notes to scale down, and either side of the one tone of the scale. So that's my melody. Nothing fancy, but effective. Now, along with that, I want to do something with my left hand, and I'm also going to do the same walking up and down the scale type of thing, but I'm not going to do it in parallel with what I'm doing with my right hand. I'm going to do something different, something separate, but still the same ideas. So my left hand part that I'm going to do after my 2 pickup notes, I'm going to start on the second note of the scale, and as I'm walking down with my right hand, I'm going to walk up with my left hand. And I was just up the 2, 3, 4, 5 with my left hand. And then I'm going to walk down 4, 3, 2, 1. One more time. Quite simple, but effective. And now I want to put fuller block chords along with that in my right hand. So how do I know what block chords to play? I'm going to base it on what notes are in the melody, what notes are in the left hand, and figure out from there what chords go along with that. So there's my first chord. have a big hint in that my left hand is on a G, the second note of the scale, and if you remember from part 1, we did a lot of G minor 7, 2 minor 7 chords. And that's exactly what I want to use here. So I'm going to fill out the rest of the notes of a G minor 7 in my right hand. Which is those notes right there. There's the G minor chord, that's the 7th. Next chord is going to be the 1 chord with a 3 bass, and we used that a lot in the song in part 1. 2 minor 7, 1/3. Next chord I'm going to do is going to be the 4 chord. It actually has a G melody note in it, but it's still the B flat chord. And then I'm going to do that G minor 7/C that I used in part 1. So it's a 2 minor 7 with a /5. G minor 7, F/A, B flat, G minor 7/C, staying on the C chord, and then this is the ending that we worked on in the main part of the song. I'm just going to use that here. So you can pull that from part 1 of the video if you don't know how to do that one. So here's the whole intro. Song. Okay, work on that. That is your gospel style intro, and I think that's a good way to set up the song. Let's you can stop the video here and please learn that piece of it, and then we're going to work on the ending. So let's move to the end of the song now, and what we're going to do is a sequence of chords that repeats the last phrase of the song. So the last phrase of the song is and that's how we ended it in the first video. But what I'm going to do here, when I get to that point, this is where I want to do something to allow me to repeat the last phrase of the song. So I'm going from this chord, and again, refer to part 1 of the video if you need to know where we're at here. The next chord I'm going to do is a diminished chord, and that's going to be followed by a minor 6. That minor 6 is a very good oral cue to get you into a repeat of the last phrase. And let me just put that together so you can hear what I'm talking about. So we've got this. Here's the diminished, and here's the minor 6. And I'm going to go to a 2/7 chord, and that sound very much makes your ear want to hear that last phrase again. So I have again, and that leaves me well set up to repeat the last phrase of the song again. So that's my ending, and let me dig into that a little further because there were quite a few things in there that I glossed over. So here's where the diminished chord comes in, and a diminished chords are kind of cool. There's actually only 3 of those that you need to learn, and a diminished chord is a 1, 3 flat, 5 flat, 6 pattern. It's actually called a diminished 7th in that form. And the interesting thing about diminished chords is that once you've learned each of the 3 chords, you've covered them in all 12 keys. Let me explain that. This is a C diminished chord, which is taken as the 1, 3, 5. That's your regular C chord. flat the third, flat the fifth, and add the sixth, which is actually a diminished seventh. Diminished means down a full step. So 7, down half step, down a full step. So that's my diminished chord. And just because of the way a diminished chord is built, this is not only a C diminished chord, this is also an E flat diminished chord, a G flat or F sharp diminished chord, and an A diminished chord. And you can verify that yourself if you take that 1, 3 flat, 5 flat, 6 in any key. You'll find out that if I say, for instance, I want to do it in the key of A, if I'll end up with the same notes that I have in this C diminished chord. It's 1, 3 flat, 5 flat, 6 is here. So those are the same notes that were in the C diminished chord in just a different order. So that's what I meant when I said there's only 3 of them to learn. If you learn a C diminished chord, you've actually learned a C, an E flat, a G flat, and an A diminished chord. They're all the same. So if I, again, I'm in my phrase, I'm going to go to this since I'm going from C to C sharp to D, I think of this as a C sharp diminished chord in this case. Diminished, minor 6, and I'm doing this little dissonance here on my right hand instead of just going straight to the D minor 6. The reason I wanted to do that is because I want a little counter melody in here. I'm going to do, and you watch for that embedded inside. Watch for that embedded inside what I do here. Now watch for that embedded melody. And that's just to give a little rolling down fill inside that space. C sharp diminished, D minor to the G7th 2/7 chord, and then we're going to the 2 minor 7, G minor 7 over C, C7, B flat. Okay, that's a lot to absorb, I understand that, and you need to work on it multiple times before that's comfortable to you. Okay, hopefully that will help you figure out how to do a meaningful ending for this song and combine this with the video in part 1, and you get your intro, the body of your song, and your ending. There's lots more to talk about in this song. I may do a third video. I think really the most important thing that you could take from here, since we've talked about tones of the scale, if you think of the numbered chords instead of the actual note names, so instead of the F, B flat, and C, if you think of those as 1, 4, and 5, the important concept there is knowing those 1, 4, and 5, and the minor 2, 7, 2 minor 7, and all those kind of chords. If you think of the song in those terms instead of in absolute chord terms, think of 2 minor 7 instead of G minor 7, that allows you to transpose the song into any other key that you would like to by just moving the numbers, keeping the numbers the same, and moving them to a different scale. So if I wanted to play this in the key of D or the key of G or the key of B flat, if I know those chord numbers and move those to the other keys that I want to play them in, I can then play this song in any key that I want to. I may do another video to demonstrate some of that and to give you some ideas about what I'm talking about and how you might use that to do transpositions, modulations. There's lots of really nice things you can do with that, but again, important concept with all that is, and the reason I was really focusing on the chord numbers as much as the names, is that numbering is what's really important to be able to play the song in different keys. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense to you. Like I said, I may do another video to specifically demonstrate some different keys so you can see better what I'm talking about. If not, hopefully that's enough to get you going and thinking about the concept of transposing to different keys anyway. Thanks again for joining me with this. I hope this is helpful to you. I hope I didn't confuse the heck out of you. And look for more videos, both of arrangements of mine, and I'll try to do some more tutorials when time permits. Thanks a lot.